Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 42. Hope all you guys are doing well out there and you had an amazing Christmas. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. We'd like to thank True Tubes Tattoo Supply for sponsoring this show. All you tattooers out there, go out and get all your equipment, your inks, your needles, your pens, your PPE, anything you need for tattooing. True Tubes Tattoo Supply has you covered. Limitless at checkout. Get a 10% discount. Check them out. Remember, stay true. We'd also like to thank Magic City Brewing Company located in Akron, Ohio. For all your wonderfully great crafted beers, check out Magic City Brewing in Akron, Ohio. Remember to go out there and check out RolAmongUs.com also. For all your fight gear needs, they have fight shorts, gis, standard gis, lanky gis, rash guards, anything. Some t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories. You want it, they got it. RolAmongUs.com, Limitless20 at checkout for a 20% discount. Check them out. Also, go out there and check out BattleBomb.com, Limitless20 at checkout for a 20% discount. They have CBD and non-CBD rubs for those aches, pains, those muscle strains. Put it on, rub it in, gonna feel great, trust me. Try it out a little bit, see what it does. I'm telling you right now, I use it all the time. It's gonna feel great. Remember, BattleBomb.com, Limitless20 at checkout. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it so much. Hope all of you guys had a Christmas that was amazing and wonderful. We have been out for a few weeks and we apologize for that. There's a pandemic still going on. So we had to shuffle some stuff around, didn't drop some shows. But today we have an amazing guest with us, Thomas Rozdzynski. If I didn't pronounce that last night, Thomas can correct me here in a second. And he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, I believe, 3rd degree, right, Thomas?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. I thought 3rd degree. Also, he's a judo black belt. He is the owner and lead instructor at Rol Academy of Jiu-Jitsu in Chicago. I'm just going to go with Chicago because I'm going to mess up your
Chicago's
town.
fine.
We appreciate it so much, Thomas, for hanging out with us. He also has his own podcast called Rol Radio with Gary that he does. He also has a new podcast, I'm sure we'll get into it, called Ask a Black Belt, and also an online library to get data information, and Thomas is going to get on all that. We'll let it go. So Thomas, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it very much, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. And I do have to say, you pronounce my name correctly, which happens very rare these days.
Awesome.
The letters that arrive to the house with a misspelled Polish name, it's ridiculous. It actually happened like last week. My wife was like, what the hell is this?
You're like, I don't know. That belongs to me, not the guy next door.
Right?
That's awesome. How's Academy going and everything right now?
It's going well. Everything is going well, considering that I think this is the unique time where, a lot of people think pandemic is behind us, or we want it to be behind us. But yet all this craziness is happening around us. So it's, and we are in Illinois. So, the rules and regulations are very unique compared to other states, so it's a juggling act, but we're doing well. We're doing actually well. A lot of new students, a lot of existing students are back in the mats. So life is good. I could not complain.
That's awesome. And it's so glad to hear too. I always ask that to people because I think it's so important for people once they get involved with it. And this, Thomas, like if you step off the mat and you're away from it for a long period of time, unless you have someone that's constantly in your ear, which is we're going to get into. This is a great story that Thomas actually has a background of how he started jiu-jitsu. But, if guys walk away, then it could be a possibility of them never coming back. And the pandemic could be something like that. I am a prime example. I've talked about this before. I had 9 classes when I started, and then the pandemic hit and we shut down. We had to shut down here in Ohio. And fortunately, Chad was on me like, flies on the good stuff.
Yeah, I talked about this on my podcast, but also to a number of my students just at the academy and people who reached out. I think pandemic was or is such a unique situation where, we were forced to take some time off, or even if you didn't take time off, there was an impact. Like I look at this objectively, and whether you like it or not, whether you believe in pandemic or not, doesn't matter. There was an impact. Jiu-jitsu is such a physical sport. It was hard to avoid this whole situation.
Yeah.
Right. And it even though it felt like injury-like return, meaning you got hurt, you had to be off, it's out of your control, and coming back. I think it was very different mentally because we knew we were not injured. We knew we wanted to do things. We still wanted to be engaged, but we couldn't be engaged. You know what I mean? So these things are very, very dangerous from that position. You know, when you pop your knee, hip, back, whatever it is, you know mentally that you are unable to do it. And I think we kind of pause for a moment and say, I'm going to recover. I'm going to do everything to get back, blah, blah, blah. And then there is this continuous engagement, if you will. You know, but in situations like this, that doesn't exist because we are fully capable of doing everything we were doing.
Right.
We just, you know, the doors are closed or there are limitations or whatever that is, or maybe whatever, these is completely out of our control. Yeah. So the last 2 years, I think, were very unique for a lot of people, a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners. And those who have returned, I know they love it. There's a lot of people who have not returned. I know a lot of academies who have closed permanently.
Yeah.
I personally know 4 that permanently closed. Wow. They never came back. So it is, you know, again, whether believe it, like it, not like it, doesn't matter what your view is. There was an impact. There was.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter where everyone's process is. It impacted a lot of people. And unfortunately, it impacted people. As you said, Thomas, you know, you have friends or people, you know, it's like you want every academy, whether it's a competitor or not, you still want it to be successful because it's training or it's giving knowledge to people in something we love to do in the first place, you know, and that's it's an impactful thing in people's lives and every day and everything that we do every day, you know, so not to have it is so hard. And, you know, it's such an unfortunate situation, you know, of the pandemic being what it is, but it's also super fortunate that some people changed their blueprint. They got smart and they changed and, you know, they did Instagram stuff or, you know, got videos or did classes online and they got people engaged. And, you know, Chad and I talked to a lot of different people about stuff like this is, hey, if you changed your blueprint, you probably are succeeding right now. And if you didn't, you may have not succeeded. And I'm sorry that happened to people, but in the day and age that we live, you always have to be willing to change your blueprint. It's kind of like doing jiu-jitsu. If you don't change your ability to learn this hard martial art, then you're not probably ever going to get good at it. It's like me.
I think this was from a business perspective, this was one of the big tests for a lot of academies. You know,
sure.
It's this view of, are you running a club? Or are you running a business? Right. You know, and if you are running a business, you will have to evolve and you have to adapt. You have to change the blueprint, just like you were saying, just like Amazon did, Target did, all these other companies, Apple, Microsoft, all of them. They all had to change the way how they do business. Otherwise, they would go out of business. And I think if there are individuals who were able to adapt in whichever fashion, capacity, you know, but if they have, then they are probably right now making more money than they have pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
But if they haven't, they are probably struggling, you know, and that question is unfortunately for all of us who own Academy to kind of really reflect on.
Sure, 100%. Like, well, for instance, so Thomas, you came from corporate America before you got into jiu-jitsu, right? And that, even seeing that change, do you ever think now, like when that pandemic went on, like, wow, it's a possibility of not doing jiu-jitsu or being in corporate America?
All right.
I mean, I don't think you want to go back. I know that. Because you and Chad have a very similar.
You want me to answer this how I think or how my wife wants to hear? Because she's upstairs, she's going to kill me. But
but we all have great women in our lives. I'm assuming you do, Thomas. Chad does. I'm married, have 3 kids, great wife. So you'll be okay.
You know, it is a scary time. It is a scary time. When you go through a life-changing event, a forklift change, when you go from a cushy, successful corporate job with a fixed check and a career set for success, right? And you go from this to doing something that you love, but with nothing but unknowns and very flexible check, and
Sure.
with a lot of bumps and
Right.
things that happen along the way, and then pandemic hits. You do ask yourself a lot of questions. But I think again, this is kind of what I mentioned a moment ago: is if you have a solid business plan, if you know how to execute a business actions, if you know how to adapt to the situation, and if you can start thinking ahead and be very innovative. There is the failure odds are going down significantly. And you mentioned a moment ago, this pandemic situation in many cases allowed people to create evolution with how they do business and what they do business, who they do business with, and really evolve and open opportunities that they've never thought about before. And whether you're in jiu-jitsu or selling coffee or whatever you do, you had to adopt. You had to. Everybody has to. So, again, if you're running a business, I think those things are much easier. If you're not running a business and it's more of a club hangout spot, let's roll kind of situation, then situation is harder. Because lease or rent is still expected, but you don't have the revenue. There's we can get into the business stuff all day long, but the point is that you have no safety nets, and safety nets is what's necessary in business. So
yeah, always, definitely. And that's like, Chad, the same thing with like you. I mean, not that you ever thought about going back, but you left corporate America kind of in a way to run a gym, to run an academy, to do jiu-jitsu every day. I think of that like, and I read information about you, Thomas, and that's where generally I was like, man, Chad and Thomas, you guys both have kind of similar situations where you both left corporate America to pursue a dream. Thomas, yours is a little bit different. Like, I do have to ask this. Are you still friends with the guy who bugged you to leave corporate America and do jiu-jitsu?
There were few, but
okay.
I know who you're referring to. Yes, yeah, we keep in touch. Yeah.
Oh, good. It would be like, hey, you know what I'm still doing? I'm still doing jiu-jitsu, and the other guy's like, oh man, I'm in corporate America now.
Yeah. We all make choices, right?
Sure. Jiu-jitsu actually helps you too in making these type of decisions. Like honestly, like because you're put in such a tough situations because jiu-jitsu is so hard. And honestly, when you apply what you've learned in jiu-jitsu, if you start applying that to life, which I try to tell people all the time, not just in jiu-jitsu for those who don't know jiu-jitsu, but those who do know jiu-jitsu understand that you can take this and apply it to business, for instance, or anything really, because you learn from failures. You keep the failures minimum. You invent yourself or do the blueprint and change everything. So I like for you, Thomas, did that help along the way always to get to this dream to own your own academy?
You mean did jiu-jitsu help my business or the business help my jiu-jitsu?
I think it was both, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, in a way, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think jiu-jitsu is such a unique activity that really allows you to, one, put yourself in these very vulnerable situations. I mean, not to take away from any other sports or activities, but I really don't know any other one that you literally put your life in somebody's hands willingly, and that trust has to be developed, right? And we don't think about these things. Like, I think when you step on the mat for the very first time, it's like, oh, I just want to learn how to fight. I want to learn how to defend myself. I just want to lose weight, whatever the case is.
Sure.
But many people don't really think about the fact that somebody will be breaking your arm or somebody will be choking you. And if they don't let go, hopefully you have the AED there, right? Like,
right.
But, but no, in all seriousness, like we put our lives in somebody's hands, and granted this tapping motion that we all, love so much, what if they don't let go? I mean, we've seen plenty of times you watch Worlds of Pan Ams, or even UFC, there is a choke locked in, they tap and The referee doesn't see it, and
right.
people do pass out, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but I think in a larger scale, and from very high level view, that event, that moment really allows us to develop this unquestionable trust between people. And that is where this bridge between mat and off the mat takes place, where we troubleshoot things, we trust people, we develop these relationships, and then we fail. We fail daily almost, you know, and then we do have to go back and reflect, and we do get angry, and we get upset because it didn't go according to plan, you know, and then we come back and we do it again and then again and again and again, you know. And I think that is the beautiful part behind jiu-jitsu. It's that bleeding kind of connection between mat and off the mat. We can really use the same skills off the mat while we are that we used just moments ago, defending ourselves or attacking somebody. So I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No,
I talk a lot.
No, so. That's good. That's good. 100% you answered it, because, you know, Chad, we always have these conversations off the mat or on the mat or in between rounds or whatever. And it's that type of stuff where, you know, what this applies to. 'Cause I'm an older grappler now that I started in my 40s now. I'm still a white belt. I'm a 3-stripe white belt. Still getting my butt kicked all the time. So it's, you know, it's awesome and all that stuff. But
believe me, you're gonna have 3 stripes on you're gonna have 3 stripes on your black belt. You're still gonna be getting your butt kicked.
doesn't matter. Right? Doesn't change.
That doesn't change.
Right. Which, that's one thing that I love. It's probably one of the greatest things I love about jiu-jitsu, because it does that to you once you let your mind kind of wrap around the whole art of it and allow yourself to absorb what jiu-jitsu really is. Then you understand that there's going to be good days and bad days. In the beginning, I struggled, and Chad would always be like, hey man, there's another person over there, and there's a 50-50 battle. You know, so, and there's going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser, and don't expect, if you're against upper belts, don't expect, like, you know, certain things to happen, because they're skilled and they've been there and they've done it, you know. Just go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, and you say, you know, we talk about winning and losing a lot, and I just had somebody we had an open mat yesterday, and one of the blue belts, Pete is the other black belt at our academy with myself, and he's like, do you and Pete ever get tired of winning? I'm like, listen, we're all here on a Saturday afternoon doing what we love. We're all winning today. It's not just about that match. And I'm gonna get my butt kicked too. Just like you said, Thomas, because you're a 3-stripe black belt doesn't mean you're still not getting your butt kicked a little bit. Right. I mean, and if we're doing jobs as an instructor, our students are going to continue to do that to us.
Matter of fact, one of my students literally earlier this week, she told me, like, man, I wish I'm going to tap you on one day. And my answer was, I hope you do.
Yes.
I hope you do. Like, legit, that's my goal.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about this whole topic is right there is, I think, asking yourself a question: what is winning to you? What does that mean?
Yeah, what's it mean to you?
What does that mean? Because, like, you ask 20 people and they're gonna all give you different answers. One's gonna say, well, I want to tap him out. I want to get to the top. I want to pass the guard. I don't want to get tapped today. I don't want to get swept today. I want to survive. I don't want to be out of breath. I want to go 6 rounds. I mean, look, these are all different goals for different people.
Yes.
For sure.
Right. And I think, really identifying these things, it's critical to your success, you as a student. You know, and hypothetically, we walk into the room and it's me and a guy who is a ex-pro football player, 350 is his weight. I'm sorry, but I am not competing with him strength-wise.
No.
I got nothing.
Right.
I don't care how many years of experience I have. I got nothing strength-wise on these guys. My plan has to be very different. I cannot plow through him. I cannot manage him the way I'm going to manage somebody who's my size, my weight, my skill. Very different goal. But then here's another often underestimated situation. I walk into a room and I see a female who is 100 pounds soaking wet. My plan, I can maybe manage her, you know, from a strength perspective, but I bet you she's going to find small spaces where I've never seen before.
Sure.
You know, our bodies are different. Our brains are different. we're reacting to things differently. And I think setting goals for ourselves is critical to our success. We can't expect walking in every single day having the same goal while we roll with 20 different people. Like, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
It's failure before you started.
You're setting yourself up to fail by doing that.
Completely. So I often tell my students, your goal should change from training partner to training partner. I go with this big guy. My goal is maybe not allow him to sweep me. I go with this small person. My goal maybe is to be on the bottom and work on my sweeps. My goal with this black belt is maybe not, forget about being tapped. Forget about that. How about if I look and see what he's doing? That's a phenomenal goal. Can you see what he's planning doing before he does it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Why nobody talks about this? Like, it is mindless. But you know what? When we are starting, all we want to do is destroy people.
Right.
Destroy people. You can ask anybody. 20 years ago who trained with me. I was like the worst training partner. The worst. I wanted to destroy everybody. I wanted to kill everybody. It was the worst. Thankfully, some sense got knocked into me, but
that happens to all of us. So on that topic, stretching it out a little bit, Thomas, where do you think the evolution of jiu-jitsu has come from when you started? You and Chad started, Chad, when did you start? I can't remember.
2004.
That's right. 2004. And Thomas, what, around 2000?
2000. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Chad said, we've had these conversations before. What do you think about the evolution? Because, I still think the people are there. Like, we know this, we joke about it. Like, oh, there's memes and all kinds of stuff of the shaky white belt who wants to plow through everybody and just fight and not die. And it's like a bull in a china shop type deal, and then there's like what I did, not to sidetrack, but I went to what you just said. Like, I was like, I'm going to watch people. Like, I'm going to watch what they do. It's like the upper belts, and then try to learn like that way too, on top of learning like from class in general and training and stuff. But I wanted to, when I rolled with people, it was like, I just want to see what they're doing. Like, I really want to watch like what they're doing and how they're getting to that position and stuff. And that's helped me tremendously, in my journey of doing it. But I do always wonder, like, what's the evolution? What do you think? What's your opinion?
Well, I think over 20 years, I'm curious what Chad thinks about this, but over 20 years, I think jiu-jitsu has changed tremendously in a very, very fast pace. And the most visible change is the accessibility of jiu-jitsu. It is the fact that I can pick this phone up.
Yeah.
And I can literally find anything from anybody at any time on any topic in a split of second, right? And it's free.
Yes.
Because YouTube is
yes.
Beautiful platform, right? We can talk about YouTube. I have my opinions about YouTube, but the point is that is all accessible. When I was on the mat 20 plus years ago, we had 2 books and that's it. There was nothing else. I do remember to this day, there was this website called BJJ.org. Chad, I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, vaguely remember that one. Yeah.
It was black with a neon green text. And it was like, it was the worst website. There was no pictures, just text. And it was like 6 pages, but it was the only jiu-jitsu website, period. But anyway, there were just books. There was nothing else. There was Black Belt magazine. I remember that at some point, and like you read the articles, you look at the pictures, but like learning from a book is very different than learning from a video. It's completely different, but even classes like today, at my academy, we have 2 to 5 classes a day. Like, there's so much availability when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Back then, there was like 1 class. You missed it. Oh, you got to wait 2 days. Like, it is what it is. It wasn't accessible. And plus, I had to drive an hour to jiu-jitsu. So today, any major city has multiple academies. Smaller cities have. I mean, there are, I think, some corners of the world where jiu-jitsu is not accessible, but I think overall it's a high demand and and high delivery product or service that is really available to a lot of people. And that allows people really to take jiu-jitsu in a very different way from a learning perspective. What before was, I really have to be in the class. Right now, it's really not. Class is great, and I think students should attend classes. But again, you can learn a lot of stuff online. You can learn. There's plenty of academies who stream classes live. Yeah. Like, you don't even have to be at the academy. You can be at home. Like, agree or disagree with this, it doesn't matter. But the point is that the medium is available. It's
available, yeah.
And it continues evolving. I was just talking to somebody else about this. It's like, I think before we expire in our lifetime, there is a possibility of literally having virtual classes. Like, yeah. I mean, AI is getting, and I don't want to get into the geeky stuff, but like AI is getting so powerful. What's stopping us from having a virtual training partner in our own living room? I don't know. That sounds crazy, but literally, did you think that you would have videos on your phone? Did you think about that 10 years ago? Because I haven't.
Yeah, none of us. I don't think anyone who ever dives into the social media platforms, when that's, even if we go back to, when MySpace was a thing before, before Facebook and stuff. Oh, man. And even then you look at
MySpace.
it. Right?
I miss MySpace.
Oh man, MySpace was it. Yeah. I remember. I remember. Now you open a Pandora box. I'm gonna tell you MySpace story, man. Man,
come on, give it to us.
You could put music on MySpace.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, but you had to code it.
Yes. You had to code it.
And I spent days because I wanted to be cool to put them. Oh man. There were days back then.
If it didn't work, then you had to go back in and recode it again. And you couldn't just like now you Google everything to try to figure out something.
Right.
Then it was like you had no Google or nothing to try to figure out how to code it right, unless you were a coder. And there was no one that was coding. We were just all trying to figure out, hey, are there any forums anywhere where MySpace that told me how to do it? Because that's how I was figuring it out.
Good old days.
I know, those were the good. Now you got every platform under the sun, which is awesome, being used, and it's also negative because it's being used in a negative connotation.
It's a tool, right?
But it is a tool, 100%.
It's just like everything else. It's a tool, and it's really up to the one who's using it really to use it the right way, right? Yep. But in all seriousness, jiu-jitsu will continue evolving. Some things of jiu-jitsu will disappear, new things will be developed. I think it's up to us to see where the jiu-jitsu will go in the next 10, 20 years. But it will continue changing. Like, we can't stop the evolution. You can't. No. We have to adapt to it, and really have to make the best out of it. So that's the important part to keep in mind.
Yeah, 100% for sure. And Chad, you've talked about this before. The Ghee. So do we think the Ghee's staying? Think it'll fade out? What's your opinion, Thomas?
Chad, what do you think?
The Ghee's here. It's staying. It's not. I'm not getting rid of it. So it'll be at our place in Ohio forever.
Yeah, I think where some say that jiu-jitsu is going to get divided into those like two different, and it already is kind of sort of visible, but there's Nogi professional jiu-jitsu competition, and then this traditional Ghee form, which often will include self-defense. It will include some of the traditional things way back from 1900s from Gracie's, but I think that it's going to become more and more visible where this demand to make money is going to drive the no-gi factor, simply because it's more entertaining, it's more adapting to MMA. I think it's easier to watch. To be honest, it's just more fun, right? And it's there's a lot of room for this show like appearance that's what pays money. I mean, if people watch it, there's money. These guys get paid, and we can ignore that, right? I mean, but I think there will be the other side of jiu-jitsu, which is the more traditional side. This is where some of the hobbyists will come in. Some of the a lot of people who want to learn jiu-jitsu, who want to use jiu-jitsu to to change their life, to improve their lives, to learn some of those skills. I think that also will continue existing. I wonder how much of a bleed there will be between both of those forms, and will they really be called both jiu-jitsu? I'm curious about how that will goes on.
That's a very good point. I never thought about it like that. Like a division in names, instead of just saying Nogi, like, oh, that's Nogi and that's Ghee.
Submission grappling or whatever.
Right.
Is it?
Well, because even today, you have academies who specialize in jiu-jitsu only. You have academies that specialize in Nogi jiu-jitsu only. Period. Right. I mean, 10th Planet is a big one, and I love those guys. But there's a lot of conversations out there whether that is still part of jiu-jitsu, or is this separating in its own organic way because of the systems that they have developed and introduced into their own academies, right? I mean, a lot of Nogi techniques and principles might not apply where you have Nogi such a scenario.
Sure.
The grips are definitely different. There is definitely less friction. There's definitely control factors are very much different, right? It's more dynamic. Your awareness has to be in different points. So it's not that it's right or wrong. It's just very different now. It's very different, right? So
I was just telling Chad, we watched, obviously Worlds was, week. And Chad and I are texting stuff, watching Worlds, watching a lot of good matches. And I would, and
oh, you guys do that too? I do.
Yeah.
Are you watching this? Oh my God! Did you see this?
Yeah.
Oh, my question to Chad is like, what was that?
All right, fair enough.
What was that move? I don't even know what that was. How do you even do that? But I'm like, man, some of the matches were awesome. And then some of the matches, I'm like, oh, they were so slow. They were just like, they had grips, but I understand the Ghee because it's about who's going to open up first, who's going to take that chance. And Nogi,
we see that in Nogi too, though. I think that's the grappler, either if he's going to stall or whatever their style is, right? We've watched some who's number one matches, which are awesome. And I love jiu-jitsu, but I don't want to watch 20-minute match. You know what I mean? So I thought the Worlds were great this year. There were some awesome matches. And that, but I'm a Ghee guy. That's just me. I do Nogi. Obviously, I'll watch Nogi because I love jiu-jitsu. But if I had to pick, I would watch Ghee.
And I think another important factor to really always keep in mind is that these guys are there to win. And it's not necessarily, at least in my mind, it's not necessarily the grappler himself, but the grappler adapting to the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
If rules of engagement allow him to stall, he will stall. I would stall too. If I'm winning, why would you risk? Right? Yeah. Like these are important strategic questions that everybody has to ask themselves, right? So, again, there are events or venues that have a little bit more entertainment-friendly rules of engagement, right? Yeah. That really spike it up where they have to move or they are rewarded certain things if there is, certain things that they do, and it makes it more entertaining for the viewer. But the bottom line is, they're there to win, especially if they're professional events, fight to win or who's number one or ADCC, these guys get paid. They're not going to sacrifice, I don't know, $100,000 check.
Sure.
Just so you are smiling in front of TV, right?
And they shouldn't. You know what I mean? They shouldn't. They should go in, like you said earlier in the show, with a plan and a goal and tackle that. And as they go in that match, if it's a point of, hey, I'm up 2-1, there's a minute left, there's no reason for me to do anything at this point. Like, I'm not going to try to let him get an advantage or anything. Stay where you are.
And that's these are the consequences of the sport that we have.
Sure.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of, again, gripping and holding. And matches are longer. I mean, if you go 20 minutes, you mentioned, that's a very long match. If you look at wrestling, that doesn't happen.
No.
Matches are 2 minutes. That's it. Right. Like, you go or you get a hot dog and you go home. Like there's nothing in between. But again, these are the rules of engagement that we are a part of. And I think that's really important for anybody who's watching and anybody who's competing to really, think about it. I tell my students all the time, you want to go compete, make sure you know the rules. Know the rules. Know what you're walking
Chad
into.
All the time.
You can't complain the referee called it wrong, called it not what you wanted. Rules of engagement. That's it. You need to know what you're walking into. Important parts.
100%.
Yeah.
What's your favorite set of rules?
I think they are all different. I don't know if there is one ideal rule set, if you will. I think ADCC is definitely pushing to be the most entertaining one. They definitely reward. There's a monetary motivation behind all of this. They definitely create a lot of prestige. I think Who's Number One has some interesting things that they are doing. What was the one in New York? Kasai.
Kasai was good. Yeah.
Kasai is another one. I know Hollis. He does really good job. They do phenomenal job over there. And excuse me. But again, these are. I don't think there is one specific rule set. And all these organizations, they are trying to pivot, create their own unique way to stand out, to generate those viewers, and really generate, the attention that they need. Again, this is what's so unique about jiu-jitsu, I think. Again, if you look at wrestling, if you look at the judo or taekwondo, any other martial art that is really on a competitive level, there is one major overseeing of body of rules, right? There is International Judo Federation, boom, that's it. And everybody complies. Everybody complies with it, right? In jiu-jitsu, that doesn't exist. Same thing as with wrestling. Same thing as, all these sports, they have these rules, and we don't. We're I think on the younger side, jiu-jitsu is still developing, and it was going to continue growing. But until there's one international rule set all across everywhere, we're going to see these changes, these different rules of engagement. Different organizations are going to do different rules, and I think that's kind of cool.
Absolutely.
You can go and compete in different ways. You're not locked in one school, one rule set. At the same time, you need to know what you're competing with. So what your tools are, right?
Right. Yeah, from a viewer's perspective, I love it because it's like a different flavor all the time when you're watching all those. You can watch many different tournaments a weekend, whatever worlds, and then hit something else, and you'll get some different rule sets. So you'll get to see some different jiu-jitsu used because of the rule set. You know what I mean? Which makes it intriguing for me personally. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I think we've had those conversations where it's like the rules are kind of nice. They're set apart, and spread out and stuff. So,
and it gives different competitors opportunities to compete at different places.
Different things.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, while I'm thinking about it, we can talk about this Ghee versus Nogi and different rule sets, but everybody still wants to be an IBJJF world champion, right? Yep. That's the one that still holds the weight. ADCC does too. Absolutely. Yep. But man, you have that world championship under your belt. It's seminars. It's all kinds of stuff, right? I
think you got these two pillars, right? It's like ADCC for the grappler. Yeah, he's like the ultimate grappler, right? And then you have this IBJJF Ghee worlds,
right?
That this guy is definitely the Ghee champion, right? And I think both of the organizations have done phenomenal job from a prestige perspective, throwing the events and providing with the highlighting the best of the best, and really promoting the sport for what it is. So, I always enjoy those. But at the same time, I do have to say, like watching Kasai or watching Who's Number One or some of these privately owned companies, it's not a tournament style. It's they do have some tournament style, right? But it's more of a show. It's more of these are pros, right? You have one fight, you win, lose, there's a winner. So it's again different engagement points.
The evolution of it, man. It's crazy because I, not being around it that long and having, multiple guests and Chad and asking other people like yourself, Thomas, like could you ever imagine when you guys started, like, hey, like you said earlier, I can pick my phone up and it's on everywhere, but it seems like it's everywhere. It maybe that's because it's more prevalent to me and I'm always seeing it, but I'm always like, man, it seems like jiu-jitsu is all over the place.
It is. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think we are spoiled. I think we are spoiled.
Yeah.
Chad, do you remember Googling anything 20 years ago?
No.
No.
I mean,
like you same to both you guys. Hey, you got a magazine? Or hey, let's go get that one AHS tape that we can get at Blockbuster.
Yeah. We weren't seeing the matches we were seeing. We had to go to a tournament, like, I'm sure. Did you go to the Arnolds back then? The Arnolds was the who's who.
Arnolds was like it.
It was like who's number one
place. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And God forbid you actually did well. Oh man, that you got a medal.
Right.
Back in Arnold's, you did like.
Oh yeah. And now you tell this to the students and they roll their eyes. I was like, that was last week.
Last week. Yeah.
But you would have Terry. I mean, at the Arnold's competing, you would have Marcelo Garcia there, and Salo and Zanji, and I mean, it was a who's who of grappling.
And that was that was the only opportunities, though, right? Like the Arnold's was the only thing where people were really competing because
in the Midwest,
right? In the Midwest.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you still had Worlds or Pan Ams in Florida in the beginning, and then California. But again, you're looking at, even if you look at, forget about 20 years, right? Look at 15 years ago, flying to California, it was not feasible. I don't mean to poop on Emirates Parade, but like we couldn't have booked flight for $100. Like,
sure,
right.
It
wasn't accessible. That didn't exist, So like going to Worlds or going to Pan Am's was an expense. It was like you really you better go and you better go do well.
Sure, right.
So and many have, but again, it's not as accessible as it is today.
Yeah, it's a little more easier for that $100 plane ticket that back then was.
The other big, we were talking about the evolution, and we can talk on the game and the moves and all, obviously that's so odd, but one of the biggest evolutions I feel is how we take care of our new students now. And when I started, it was like, now when I have a new person, I'm like, hey, if something hurts, tap. This is what we do. My first day, I got heel hooked, and nobody told me, hey, if it hurts, tap. So I think one of the bigger evolutions is the atmosphere we keep at our gyms or our academies, and how we take care of people, right? We want them to keep coming back.
It's always funny to me. Like, first day I got heel hooked. I have no idea what I'm doing. What's going on?
No clue.
No, I mean, I agree 100%. It's, number one, we are smarter about physical training in general.
Yeah.
We have injury awareness, injury prevention, things like warm-ups. I mean, here's a thought. Let's warm up. Let's cool down, right? Not go 100% and destroy each other. I mean,
instantly, right.
Listen, you're laughing, but this is all true stories.
Oh no, I hear some stories from these guys.
But but that's one component. But the second component is the business side that you talk about is the onboarding process for the students. First of all, how about cleaning mats every single day? Yeah. Here's a thought, right? Like, and it might sound like a completely ridiculous thing, but that didn't exist. It wasn't known. It wasn't the same way. And it's not because somebody was lazy or didn't want to do it. It's just the knowledge wasn't there. The culture wasn't there.
Sure. Yeah.
Like simple things, hygiene, washing Ghees, Listen, I can tell you endless stories where you walk into a locker rooms and Ghees are standing. They are not hanging. They are so dry from sweat. They are standing on their own. Like, but so we definitely got by far smarter from a business perspective and from jiu-jitsu perspective, from a physical exercise perspective. So overall, jiu-jitsu has gotten better. And then we are obviously seeing results of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's academies everywhere. I mean, everywhere, with hundreds of students. You know, before 20 years ago, having an academy with 300 or 400 students was unheard of. Right? These were the Marcelo Garcias or Gracie academies. These are the big of the big, the best of the best. Yeah. Now, you know, a well-structured academy can generate a revenue and actually have people on payroll and can actually support families.
Yeah.
Like it is very, very different than it used to be. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. I don't want to go back to the corporate.
Back in the old days. Well, and it goes back to, again, what you said earlier. It's the evolution of it and evolving and learning, obviously, and seeing what other failures have been made by maybe others, even ourselves at times, and then going, hey, we got to change that. We can't do that anymore. We can't train this hard anymore, or we're not going to make it. You read stories about guys who, have gotten their black belts super fast and super quickly, but then their bodies are breaking down now because it's like they worked so hard to go through this evolution quickly, but then it's like, oh, well, you didn't take off when you were hurt. You didn't stop when you were injured. You try to work through it and you try to compete and you still kind of do this. And now you're kind of screwed in your 30s. Like you could be in your 30s and have a lot of long-term damage. And, so, I mean, being early and seeing what you guys have done and the way you teach, because Thomas, the way you're talking is the same way Chad teaches at the gym at East Coast is the same thing. Make smart decisions. If you're hurt, don't train, man. Like come and just watch or hang out or see what's going on and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Take notes, and stuff like that. I think from learning from all, I say my upper beltsmen that I've talked to and that we've talked to, Chad and I've talked to on this show. That's one of the biggest things that I learned is that type of information. Like, it's okay. It's okay to be not okay in that form of going, hey, it's okay to tap, or, hey, my foot's messed up. It may not be real bad, but let me take a few classes off and see, or whatever. And you guys are teaching that way, and before you guys didn't get taught that way. It was come here, beat you up and choke you and break your arm off. A
lot of times too, like you said earlier, Thomas, you have 2 to 5 classes a day now. Like when I started in the area at East Coast, we had Nogi once a week. That was my jiu-jitsu. That was my start. So I was training 1 time a week in Nogi.
Yeah.
So,
different times, right?
Different times. Yeah.
And I think this is good. It's good a reflection point and kind of acknowledgement point for some of the students who are just starting now, right? In the last 5 to 10 years, really. Again, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but we are spoiled today. We have more than jiu-jitsu has ever been. Sure. This is the most of jiu-jitsu that we've seen, and it continues getting better and better and better. So, when we find ourselves in these positions where we feel, I don't know, complaining or whining or I didn't get enough training or all these things, like always think about the situations that none of this would exist, or you had to drive for an hour to jiu-jitsu, or there was 1 class a week, or we really have a lot of opportunities to train today, and it's just awesome. It's just awesome. And now we're not even talking about the things that, like, conversations like this. If I wanted to hear a couple black belts talking to each other, well, they had to meet at the gym at the time and day when I was there. Otherwise, I didn't hear them. This is a huge platform for everybody to get stimulated mentally. And many will say that jiu-jitsu is more mentally stimulating than it's physically stimulating. Yeah. So conversations like this are important. Video libraries are important. All these things is what builds layers and allows us to get better and better and better and really love this. Love it. Yeah. Right? The guys who started, like, I don't know, Chad, about you, but I got aches and pains. I wake up in the morning. It takes me like 10 minutes to roll off the bed. And it's not because I'm old. It's because there's wear and tear. Right? And the hope is the guys who are starting today don't experience that to that extent, and they can enjoy jiu-jitsu a little bit more longevity. Like, it's just, Right, absolutely, right? Because we are smarter. And as instructors, we have responsibility to share that with our students.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. It's, yeah. Speaking of, Thomas, you mentioned something earlier. YouTube, it's an amazing tool.
Mm-hmm.
What convinced you and Gary to start Rol Radio? What was the passion behind it? And Chad and I can talk about why we started Limitless Radio Cast, but I'm just curious because it's about jiu-jitsu. I know it's a great show.
Yeah. Well, one, pandemic hit. 2, academy was closed. 3, I was finding a reasons to keep Gary busy so he doesn't whine and complain all the time. So yeah, he's gonna listen to this.
I was gonna say,
listen to episodes following this release, and he's gonna say something on it. I guarantee you, he's gonna fire back. But listen, no, the reality of things is it's true story. We were in the middle of pandemic. Classes were completely shut down. And now looking in a retrospect, things might have been different. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is the doors were locked. They were closed. We couldn't conduct classes as we wanted, as we have done in the past, and what are we going to do? We did the Zoom classes for our students, but that's an hour. Like what are we going to do the rest of our time?
Right.
And one of the things that I said from a very, very beginning, when the pandemic hit, when I had my staff meeting, I told my guys, listen, you guys are not going to see any financial changes. Zero. We over my dead body, nothing is changing. You're not getting paused. You're not getting laid off. None of that. We will figure stuff out because it's my responsibility to continue that despite what is going on. That's my problem, not yours. However, I'm going to ask you to do things that you might have not done before. I might ask you to do things that you seem very unusual. Okay. And we just left it at that. And a couple of weeks later, I came to Gary and I said, hey, Gary, what do you think if we start podcast? And he goes, well, if you're saying that, I'm pretty sure that, yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of done. The equipment is already here. So we are doing it, And he's like, how do you do a podcast? And I was like, I don't know, but we're going to do it. And you know what? Hey. I refused to listen to the first few episodes because we sucked. Yes. It was bad. Like those episodes should be used as an example of how not to do podcasts.
That's what we do though. I mean, and it's so hard and people that don't do this are not willing to do this. Chad and I, it's the same thing. It was like, hey, let's do a podcast. And then I kind of like let it go. And 6 months later, Chad was like, hey, let's do a podcast. And I was just like, you know what? All right. Got all the equipment and showed up at Chad's house one day and he was like, I guess we're doing a podcast.
That's it, right?
I just got a I got a microphone and a headset in the mail today, Terry.
He called. He was like, I guess we're doing a podcast. I was like, yeah. I was like, now we just have to come up with a name and then we'll just go from there. And you get better as you go, you get more comfortable, you figure out how you want to talk to people or how you want to do it and whatever. Like, I love listening to your guys' show. We listen to it all the time. Chad and I are always like back and forth, like, hey, did you listen to so-and-so with on Rol Radio, so you guys are doing a great job. So I'm glad that you did it. Yeah, for sure. Because again, it goes back to something that we love. Like I fell in love with jiu-jitsu and I want everyone in the world to get an opportunity to hear about it more than just watching it or to dive into people's lives and to see what it's done for them and how it's changed their lives. I mean, a lot of people in the world that hear jiu-jitsu, they don't understand that, yes, it's violence, but it has changed people's lives tremendously. And you're a prime example, Thomas, your story of coming into jiu-jitsu, now owning your own academy, having amazing people underneath you now that you've got to teach and you get to see evolve and grow and everything. It's like, hey, that's amazing because you're paying it forward, you're giving back and you're doing something you love at the same time instead of doing corporate America.
There's nothing more rewarding than seeing students succeed on the mat than taking this skill and this mindset off the mat and continuing this on, and especially if you see this go on for years. So like as you sit back and you hand back, and I often reflect, I journal a lot, and I write things down, and I have some students that have been with me from the very beginning, and some joined shortly after, and some joined later, and I have some brand new students who literally joined last week, and just looking around the class when the mat is full is like, it is very, very refreshing, because, one of the most mind-blowing things for me as an instructor is like all of these guys, they came here to listen to me. Well, yeah, you can't screw up. You can't mess around. You got it.
Yeah.
They're here for you. They're not here for Mickey Mouse. They're not here to watch Disney Plus or Adventures. They're here for you. They are here to learn jiu-jitsu. So you've done something right to deserve for them to be here. Yeah. And obviously they're paying for it. They're paying for it. This is something that they want to, make. They want to make sacrifices.
Sure.
They make time sacrifices. They make sacrifices on their family front, to be there, in like endless amount of times. The guys run in, like I don't know, like if somebody's chasing him, he's like, oh my God, I just put my kids to bed, blah, blah, blah. My wife has a glass of wine, and I'm like, I'm out of there. I'm going to the gym.
I'm going to the
gym. But this is like the best part of being an instructor. It's these guys and girls. They get together and we hang out, we chit chat, we train, we push each other, to limit, and ultimately, then we go home. We have a good night's sleep and we come back and do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what else can you ask for?
Life is good. That's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. Very good. All right. YouTube, good or bad?
YouTube. Listen, I'll tell you this. YouTube is phenomenal if you use it right. Okay. And I preach this. My students are freaking sick and tired of me, of doing this. And again, this is coming, that's putting this in a perspective. This is coming from somebody who has an online service that people can pay for. And I encourage them to go to YouTube, right? Because it's free content. But here's the caveat behind this. Okay. YouTube is phenomenal if you know how to use it, right? If you don't know how to use it, it's going to do more harm than it's going to do good. Okay. So if you're looking for something very specific, if you know what you're looking for, if you know how to navigate smart, intelligent decisions on YouTube, you can literally find anything from anybody at your fingertips, right? But the moment you get into this, and I call it YouTube vortex, is that little bar on the freaking right side, right? The moment you start clicking on that, and Gary laughs at me because I made this analogy on the Rol Radio, but it's like, you're looking for, you're looking for deep half. And then I was like, oh, here's a video. And like 10 minutes later, you're looking at pink bunnies with rainbows. And you're like, well, how the hell did I get here? You know what I mean? It like that is what's dangerous. That's what's dangerous about it, right? So it's not the question is not whether YouTube is good or bad, is whether you know how to use it.
To use it, right.
And if you use it right, I think you can really benefit from it, from more than jiu-jitsu, life. How many times I freaking was fixing a sink, and first thing I'm going to YouTube. Like it is a phenomenal tool. But I'm telling you, if you want to learn, if you want to understand something larger than one video, this is where the other platforms are coming in. Mm-hmm. This is where going to the academy and really adapting yourself to a set of classes. This is what is going to allow you to really comprehend things. This is where maybe purchasing a set of videos, and there's a sequence behind this. The instructor put a thought behind putting this together because it makes sense. So think about it like a curriculum, and that is what's going to be very different than YouTube. YouTube is very very random. It's powerful, but it's very random. So knowing how to use it is the key. That's my answer.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I need to. Well, I have 3 kids, and my 8-year-old is my youngest, and he's the Vortex kid. He's watching. Next thing you know, I'm going, what are you watching? Like, I'll hear something.
I had to create profiles on my iPads because like I'm looking at my stuff, you know, and my YouTube channel or whatever, I'm looking at it. And then there's like, I don't know, Super Wings or like some kind of Mickey Mouse coming out. It's like, what the hell is this? What are you guys doing on my, you know, so anyway, but.
Thomas, you were trying to look at Deep Half by Mickey Mouse. That's what it was.
Darn it. You got it.
Yeah, Chad and I talk about it though, about like that platform and the YouTube out there and stuff. And you know, Chad's perspective would be, you know, get DVDs or let's say instructionals, because some formats are not on DVD now that we've, you know, DVDs may be old now. I don't know.
Kind of.
I got to watch there a little bit. But Chad, you always talk about like doing privates. Like privates is a huge thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it depends on the person. The story.
Sure, right.
I always tell Thomas is somebody. I had one of my white belts. He was maybe a stripe, maybe two. You know, what DVD, you know, what instructional would you buy? I'm like, well, that's a different question. What I would recommend for myself versus you. And a lot of these things are, you know, they're not cheap, and that's good because all these jiu-jitsu guys are making more money and giving us more jiu-jitsu. But at the same time, in his level, I recommended doing privates with myself because I kind of know what he needs to work on at this moment versus getting a DVD series. Or, you know, if you didn't have access to a black belt or whatever, like when we were coming up, you know, you would watch different DVDs or whatever, but that was my take on it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you touch on something really, really important. These are different mediums to learn, right? And if you look at jiu-jitsu from an education perspective, meaning I'm trying to learn something, forget about combat, forget about tapping or being tapped. We're trying to educate ourselves on a brand new skill set, right? There are a few ways how we can stimulate ourselves. One is the easy one. That's the class. That's what we pay for. That's what we show up to the class. They're available at X amount of times. The downfall is there could be 20, 30, 50 people in the class, which means you're not going to get the same attention from the instructor that you would in a smaller scenario, right? And in addition to the class, we have things like seminars, right? Those are by far larger and often are done with the people who we don't have access to, right? The guys who are not at the academy, visitors, you know, world champions, whoever that might be.
Sure.
Right. So that's another way of us learning things, right? Then we have things like sparring sessions, right? Sparring sessions is also a learning environment, but very different from a class. Now, in a sparring session, when time goes on, you're not going to say, yo, whoa, hold on, stop choking me. Let me figure out how to defend the choke. Like that doesn't happen, right? We are in a live scenario. We are testing things out, right? Then another one that is often seen is like drilling classes. A drilling class is not instructional class, it's not sparring class, but it's something in between. Right. And then we can bridge into these virtual sessions, which like instructionals, video instructionals. Right? Private lessons. That's another one. Private lessons is something very unique. This is where the student can invest their own time and obviously invest financially because sometimes those are not cheap, but there's a benefit behind it that you have one-on-one undivided attention from the instructor. Right. And you have to, as a student, you have to ask yourself, is this worth my time? Right? And if it's not worth your time, don't waste your money, don't waste your time. But if it is, there's unquestionable value behind private lessons. I mean, it happens all the time. At least, you know, the feedback that I'm getting is like, I don't want to spend money on privates, but the moment they do, it is, oh wow,
yeah.
How come this was not taught in a class? We just spent an hour talking about one thing. I can't spend an hour talking about one thing in a class for one student, right? So we have these different mediums, different opportunities to learn jiu-jitsu, right? And I think I mentioned 6 or 7 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then I'm not even talking about things. I mean, we can even layer things like this podcast. That's a mental stimulation. People can actually take value out of this, educating themselves on jiu-jitsu, right? Someone was going to say, well, I didn't know I could take private lessons. Let me ask you about private lessons just from this conversation, right? So all these different engagement points, we have them available to us, right? The trick is, if you can take, advantage from most amount of them, we can't do all of them. We can't. We have to pick and choose. We don't have enough time and we don't have enough money. Those are limiting factors, right?
Sure.
But we can choose some. And if we can choose the right ones for us, that's when we win. That's when we win. There are some people who do not do privates. They don't do well with them. There are some people who do phenomenal with privates. There are some people who will go to every single seminar there is in the state. And there are some people who've never done a seminar in their life. It's not right or wrong. Is you need to, as a student, you need to figure out which ones are best for you, right? Obviously, Chad, what you were saying, privates are the most accessible. The instructor is available there. Short of the schedule and coordination, there's a great value behind them simply because the instructor knows that person. That's the key. They know the student.
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny,
right.
Why are you doing deep half guard? You don't even know how to do a cross choke. Like, let's focus on some fundamental things. Let's get you to the next level. Let's get your guard to be completely unstoppable. Let's get to that points where you are just phenomenal. Let's get your game to the next level. But again, there is price that we have to pay for it.
Sure.
And that's often because the instructor, they do have their family, they do have a house, and they do need to pay for this. And time is money.
Right.
It's time. Time to Bless. I don't know if you guys fan of him or not. But huge personality posted something recently. It's like he simply said, "Why am I charging so much? Because time is money, and I am busy. And if you want my attention, this is what it's going to cost."
Yeah,
and it is what it is. Right. You might not like it, but there will be 100 people who will. And
right.
I 100% agree with this. 100%. Like there is a value behind instructor's time, and we need to respect this. And I'm in the same spot. If I want to go and take a private with, I don't know, Marcelo Garcia, he'll probably charge me $1,000. Sorry, Marcelo, if you listen to this. I have to ask myself, is that worth the money? Is it? Because if the answer is yes, drop it, because Marcelo is not going to be around for a very long time.
Sure. And
this might be one time in an opportunity. It's
you're 100% right, Thomas. Go ahead. No, you're good.
I was about to say, we just had Mauricio Gomez, Haja Gracie's father, on the Rol Radio, and one of the things that he talked about is training with Helio Gracie, literally being in one room, one-on-one with Helio Gracie. Now, sponge that for a moment. In my opinion, this is a priceless moment. Today, people will pay thousands, if not more, to be there for 1 hour with a guy who's no longer around us, with a pioneer or a guy who invented jiu-jitsu, just to spend time with him. He was there just because he was a student. Now, we are in the same opportunities. We just don't see the value yet, right? Chad's students sitting in front of him. Oh, Chad is here. Chad is going to be here forever. Chad is going to be 95 years old. He's going to roll and tap us out forever. He's going to be no matter what. No, Chad is not going to be there forever.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. He's not?
I expired Chad already.
Man.
But you see what I'm saying?
100%.
The value raises the moment the item becomes unavailable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. 100%. And it's fair. And it's what people have to understand is that you became unavailable, let's say. Well, you became unavailable because you've built yourself up. It's not like it just fell on you. You know what I mean? Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, people are like, oh, well, that person has this and they think they're so valuable or this and that. And I said, but they built themselves up like that. No one handed that to them. They've worked very hard for it. They put in the time, the effort, the work to do it. And now they're valued and you want to devalue them, and devalue would be not paying to go do a private with them. It's like, no, man, like, we
all make choices.
Sure. Right.
Elon Musk tweeted something a couple months ago. I think he said, I work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and they still say I'm lucky.
Right. I actually I remember this exact thing because I
you know,
it's very humorous to me when I think of people like that.
Like him, hate him, it doesn't matter. The point
matter.
The point is, you know, the guy is changing today's world as is.
Yep.
And he's one of the pioneers of what we have today. You know, there's a handful of them out there, and he's one of them.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? And I would not call him lucky. I don't think there's anything lucky about him or any of the other ones. Like, I know personally, I would not be able to do 1% what he does.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But
right. No, you're right.
He does it. And I think there's a value behind it. And I think, you know, we are lucky to have people like that around us, because without them, I mean, you know, we wouldn't have the things that we have. The evolution of life continues happening. And I think the same thing happens with jiu-jitsu black belts. The same thing happens with some of the guys who continue evolving jiu-jitsu today. You know, and there's a handful of them out there, but they are grinding. They are doing things that nobody else wants to do, and they continue building this art, this sport. They're giving us opportunities to do what we love, and us opportunities to train. So, yeah,
100%.
There's a value.
Yeah. It's like doing this show, doing Rol Radio, doing our show here. We're trying to bring value to those people who don't want to do it anymore, or don't want to do it. We want to bring other people out and say, hey, I want you to talk about your value. I want you to talk about your jiu-jitsu and what you've done. Like Thomas, you have now 2 podcasts, which Chad and I can do one podcast. I don't know how you do 2 podcasts.
Don't ask me. Okay.
And all the digital stuff you're doing too. So
my mind goes faster than decisions I'm making. Okay. But listen, I love it. It's like the second podcast. It's simple. It's questions, and I answer the questions. And if that helps anybody out there, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I mean, I think when I look at it, 20 years ago when I was starting jiu-jitsu, literally there were hundreds of questions a day. What do I do? How do I do? What do I show up? How do I tie a belt? How do I wear flip-flops? Do I change flip-flops? Do I take a shower every day? Do I take a shower after class? Do I take a shower before class? I don't know. What do I do? Can I ask higher belt to train? Can I say hi to my sensei? Or he's like, untouchable. Like, I don't know. Like, right. These are all questions. Like,
these are all questions I asked myself and Googled when I first started. Right. So, like, the thought here was just as things come up in my head, I will record them and I will put them out there. And podcast is such a unique platform that things stay forever unless you take them down. Right.
And if it happens, this helps somebody else, then listen, life is beautiful. Yeah. And life is beautiful.
Right on. That's perfect. And it's a perfect way to explain it, because I do a side social media platform. I want to encourage people. And I always say, Chad has done things many out there. And I said, look, man, if it's just one person, just think one person reads that or hears it, and it changes maybe that day for them, or maybe 10 minutes for them or something. That's all that matters.
Absolutely.
All that matters. So, well, Thomas, we're not going to keep you much longer, man. It was such an honor. I want you to tell everybody how to get to you, man.
Honestly, you want to chat. I'm more than happy to chat with anybody. I have been, I make myself very accessible to anybody. The easiest way to get a hold of me is Instagram, honestly. Rozdzynski BJJ. Don't ask me to spell that. There's a lot of Z's and B's and Y's and all that. Sorry, that's my dad's fault. But it's, if you look up ROZ, it comes up. So you can find me there. You can ask me any questions. 3 things, if you don't mind, I want to mention. It's one, a Rol Radio. Obviously, it's an interview style platform, podcast that we talk to different individuals. 2, we have Ask a Black Belt podcast. That's the second one that you just mentioned a moment ago is question answer, kind of very short, 6 minutes, 5-6 minute episodes. So they're very quick. And the third one, if you ever want to explore jiu-jitsu in more way, rolacademy.tv. That's my online platform. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Everybody out there, take advantage of that. always, anyone that obviously loves jiu-jitsu, we encourage you always to obviously get involved with jiu-jitsu. Find an academy that's close to you. Find someone that likes jiu-jitsu. Search people out. People that Thomas and Gary have on their show. Search them out. Ask questions. Come to our show. Ask questions. Anything we can do to help the jiu-jitsu community and help those who aren't involved with it and you want to be. There's a lot of people out there that will give you the good direction, man. So everyone out there listening, stay tuned, tune in, all the good stuff. YouTube, use it as a tool, not as a vortex.
Bunnies.
Chad, do you have anything for Thomas that you want to ask?
I don't think so. We did a lot. That was good.
Hey, real quick, Mount Rushmore, because this just seems to be something that we started doing all the time. Who's your Mount Rushmore BJJ? It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be whoever you think. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore?
That's a tough one.
This is always tough.
It's tough because I don't want to single individuals out. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to not list them, right? But I'll give you in a random order. I think there's some pioneers.
How about not? Yeah. How about pioneers? That's actually better. Let's say pioneers because we don't want to. Yeah.
I'll tell you some pioneers. I think, and for me, it separates in generations. So you got like the Gen 1 or Gen 2 guys, which is like Mauricio Gomez or obviously, I mean, from a historical perspective, Helio Gracie and things of that nature, Rorion Gracie. I mean, the guy freaking did UFC, started UFC. Like,
sure, right.
Love him, hate him. Again, another guy who changed the lives for many, right? So that's one. Then we have like the third or fourth generation, we got Six Blades. We got, Rivera Brothers. I mean, Marcelo Garcia, Robert Drysdale. You got plenty of those guys. And like legit, I would have to list probably 80 guests from our podcast. Like,
sure, right.
All of them, right? But these are like the ones that come to my mind. But then you have the new generation, the guys who are really changing lives right now. And again, hate him, love him. Gordon Ryan, phenomenal guy.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
You can't undermine that.
Right. Yeah.
You got Mikey Musumeci. I mean, what the guy is freaking creating pretzels out of people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
These guys are changing to what jiu-jitsu is today. And again, personalities are personalities. People don't like what they are, how they are presented on social media platforms. But we need to look at it. This is how they make money. Controversy pays dollars. Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why they do it. Tom DeBlas, I mentioned him earlier. Silver Fox, Carl. Oh, man, what a brilliant guy. I mean, I can literally go on. There's so many of them. But I think what is important in that question is that I highlight all my students, because without those guys, I would not be doing what I do. Without them, honestly, my motivation would not be the same. And they motivate me every single day, and they keep me sharp. Some of them more than I like to, believe me. But they keep me sharp. So
that's why great guys
motivate me to get up.
That's why great guys like you are in the position to teach and be coaches and be, professors to others, because it's hard to take sometimes, but you can do it. Chad's, sometimes it's hard to take, but you guys are good. You guys are great. So I always say, like, good on you guys for doing it and being in those positions and giving people lives, putting something in their lives to maybe live for or something, in that term. So keep doing
Hopefully
it, man.
You all get to continue doing it for many years to come, and continue evolving jiu-jitsu for what it is.
We're making a walker that's going to go on the mat, so I'll send you one if it ever gets. It's like a long joke with. We had Todd Fox on way back.
Todd is awesome. I love
awesome.
Todd. I was actually texting with him recently.
Nice. We were joking about making a special walker with special tennis balls and all kinds of stuff. So it was good. So All right, man. Well, thanks, Thomas, so much. You guys keep doing what you're doing over at Rol Radio on YouTube and everything. Also with the new podcast, Ask a Black Belt. Everybody go out there. It'll all be in the show notes. You guys will be able to click, get out there, find him on Instagram. And next week, come back, another show. All right, everybody. Thanks, Thomas, again. Appreciate you, man, so much.
See you later, guys.
Thanks, brother.
Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed the show today. Remember, go out there and check out all our sponsors. By supporting them, you support the Limitless Radiocast podcast. It helps us bring you guys content each and every week and keeps us going. Thank you, and we appreciate you for all you do. Limitless Radiocast is brought to you by True Tubes Tattoo Supply. Limitless 10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all your tattoo needs. They have state-of-the-art equipment for everyday needs in the tattooer's life. Check them out. Remember, stay true. Limitless Radiocast is also brought to you by Magic City Brewing Company. Best beer brewed in the hometown of Akron, Ohio. Check them out. Check out RolAmongUs.com. Put in Limitless20 at checkout for a 20% discount on all your fight gear needs. That's Ghees, Lanky Ghees, rash guards, spats, fight shorts. They have t-shirts and accessories. Check them out. Great place, ran by a great guy. Also, check out BattleBomb.com. Put in Limitless20 at checkout for a 20% discount. You have CBD and non-CBD rub to rub on those aches and pains from hard training, hard work, everyday life. Check them out. Remember, Limitless20 at checkout, BattleBomb.com.